It is September 26, 2018. This is Atlanta United FC Weekly, a Home Before Dark podcast.
Where's my choo-choo?
I don't know. Where did the choo-choo go?
I think it's over.
Oh, isn't that a shame?
Oh, that is a shame. What's up, Dan? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Tim. How you doing?
Good to hear. I'm doing really well. I am Tim Herbin. As always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Mr. Kevin Bradley, across from me.
Hello.
And Mr. Dan James, across the city, across the pond.
Hello.
Yeah, I guess there probably is a pond between us at some point in the city.
Might as well be in England at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
Anyway,
I'm sure there's a dirty puddle between here and your house.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially after the rain tonight. Sorry for the delay tonight. We are 10 minutes late. The weather.
Well, we're 10 minutes and 2 days late for most.
Oh, that's true.
I think most people were assuming that we would go on Monday, but rather than weeks past, we figured we would at least just postpone it to later in the week and still keep the show because there was at least a game. So,
guys, you want to talk about a hardcore homie? We got Keith Filer down south in South Georgia saying that.
Me?
He said, "What up, guys? Out of power, but I got you on my phone tonight."
Dirty Bird person. That's all me. Show of hands who was actually awake last Wednesday. Don't be shy. I was one of the few that was up not just until the end of the game at 1:30 a.m., but the extra hour afterwards where I was just tossing and turning, trying to figure out how the hell we pulled that out.
Yeah, I was, I won't lie. I fell asleep at halftime.
That was just ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a long week for me. I had to travel the next day, 2 days later, something like that.
Yeah, and I played pickup soccer. That was a long Wednesday night. Played pickup at 5 Point Station, went out, had a quick beer with Kelly and the gang, and then went back, and I got home right before kickoff, which was great.
Good work, Kevin.
Did you watch the whole thing?
I did. I watched everything. I will admit that at 4-1, I did close out of the Twitter feed, but then I was scrolling through my timeline, and the video came up, and the ref was still looking at the screen, and I was like, "What?" So I quickly tuned right back in.
Well, for me at 3-1, I was like, "Well, I think this is pretty much over." And then at 4-1, because I was watching it in bed, because it was streaming through Twitter. So what I did was I just sat the phone down and laid there. And even though I wasn't watching it, I still had the headphones in listening to it. And then I heard that it was being reviewed, and suddenly just sat up and had to watch the rest of the moments play out. And I was right back into it. And then the rest of it, you guys know what happened.
Yeah. Which we'll get to that in just a few minutes. We're going to do some housekeeping as per usual. Thank you guys for tuning in on YouTube. If you guys are watching us live, make sure you hit the subscribe button and that little notification bell icon so you guys get alerted whenever we do go live, especially on off nights like tonight. Thank you guys for joining us. If you guys are listening to us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or on Stitcher, make sure to leave us a rating and or a review. We will read your reviews.
Right?
Nothing new. Slacking.
Can we give one shout out to the dedicated Keith Filer in the trap? I know you already mentioned this, but he's out of power, and so we're on his phone. So I'm only assuming that he's using the last few megabars of battery to watch this shit show.
Yeah,
shout out to you, Keith Filer.
I'm gonna wait another 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna make sure that we shout out Keith Filer for tuning in without power tonight.
And another special shout out to the original homie, the first. Speaking of iTunes reviews, the first review on iTunes. Richard Gordon, saw him out.
Exactly.
We got through the gates on Saturday.
That was my favorite.
And I saw him, and I was like, Richard. And I get over to him, say what's up. We all get together, get a picture.
No, you went over to him and said what's up. And I was none the wiser. And then you came back over and said that you had seen him. And so then I walked over, and he just lit up like a Christmas tree. He's like, "Oh, y'all out here!"
We did have a fun experience. We got to take one of our best friends to his first Atlanta United game, which is always special. Couple of housekeeping notes.
What did he think of it?
He absolutely loved it.
Yeah,
it was. He's the person that's responsible for my interest in soccer to begin with. Yeah. And same with Kevin. And it was an absolute blast to just see the kind of the awe in his face. He had a really good time, just like most people, especially in a game where we had 72,000. there weren't really 72,000 people there.
No. I wonder where my interest or life trajectory would have gone had it not been for Matthew getting me interested in soccer. Specifically, I wonder where my weight trajectory would have gone had Matthew not gotten me interested in soccer in high school.
There would have been a lot more 12-hour Tony Hawk Pro Skater days.
I'd be my biologic intake or composition would be somewhere in the 30 to 40% range, just red bean and cheese chimichangas at this point.
Monterey does make some good shit, though. All right. I guess I forgot my phone. That's fine. I was going to look up the fantasy standings. Oh, it is? Oh, cool. I'm going to pull up the fantasy standings really quick to plow through those. I imagine that Nathan Lyons is in number 1 still, or he is in number 1.
Oh, good point. Dirty Bird, NYC and Open Cup final games are on right now. So keep us posted. Looks like NYC scored. Keep us posted on the scores of both of those games if you guys haven't pulled up.
All right. Number 1, FC Apogee sitting steady with another great week. He's sitting at 912 points. Nathan Lyons, the aforementioned. Number 2, climbing the charts. We got our buddy Andy Watkins. Talk about an original homie. Soccer specific fantasy team in 2nd place. He is, if my math serves correct, he is 53 points off the top.
And he will be on next week with us.
Yeah, on Monday.
The winner of our the highest contribution to our Soccer on the Streets campaign for Clarkson FC earlier this season.
Yeah.
We'll also have, we haven't scheduled it yet, but we'll have Jacob Benson on sometime soon too. We reached out to him in DM. We just got to schedule it.
Yeah. And number 3, we have the NYCFC fan, Transmission FC, Andrew Kolk. And then everybody hold on to your butts because look who's in number 4.
Jacob F. Benson.
Yep. John F. Beasy Stats and Trends is plowing his way up to that top 5. And then Black Hall Bombers in number 5, Kyle Cram. And then Varvar Banks. I'm disappointed, Kevin Gorham. You dropped down to 6th.
Yeah,
I'm disappointed dad right now.
Yeah.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Have you got to say that to your new son yet, Dan?
No, but I've said it a lot to my older children.
I'm not mad. Just disappointed.
Yeah.
All right. So I said keep up with the scores, and now we're getting conflicting scores. No. Okay. That's both. So Dynamo are up, and then NYC's up.
Yeah.
So 1-0 in both of those games.
You can't mention Home Before Dark Faithful without Brittany S. She just joined us in the live chat. Yeah.
Who are we pulling for in the Open Cup final?
Who is it? Houston and who?
Philadelphia.
Oh. I don't care.
Me either.
Actually, no. I really didn't like the way Philly played against us. I like CJ Sapong a lot. I think Andre Blake's great. But the way how childish Bedoya and Medunjanin were against us, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I really like Albert Thalise from Houston.
Yeah.
Black Panther. He's fucking awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely.
They've kind of had their season just tank, right? I mean, they're not in a playoff position, correct, Dan? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Houston Dynamo, they are no, they're not. They're like at least 10 points out.
Hey,
12.
Josh Bagaransky's in the trap tonight.
Whoa.
With the Mouths of the South boys.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, isn't your show really what are you doing here? You're actually on the radio tonight. I think you have better things to be doing than sitting in here talking to us.
Does Eric know that you were in watching us? Are you guys stealing content as you guys are on the radio?
So, yeah, I guess I'll say Houston as well. I don't really have a dog in the fight either way. Obviously, I want NYC to lose, but they're not going to close the gap at this point. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. I think NYC is still going to salvage out the rest of their season, though, and stay in 3rd, which we talked about last week.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I could see that. I mean, Philly is surging. I would be interested to see where they end up in this whole race. Because they've won.
What are you talking about?
Philly's won 5 straight, correct?
They've won 2 straight.
With a draw in the middle of another 3 wins, right?
A draw and a loss.
I don't know why I was thinking
like 5 wins. They went on. No, well, Tim, they went on like a 5-win streak. Then they drew with Orlando 2-2, and then they got spanked by Montreal 4-1. But then they beat the Sounders, and then they beat SKC, which is pretty no mean feat.
Yeah. That said, though, with 4 games left to play, they are only 4 points back of NYCFC, and they're only a single point away from a home playoff game.
Yeah. Well, NYCFC just scored again, so it's 2-0 there.
All right, well, they can take those points.
Yeah. All right, so we opened up talking about it with show of hands of who watched the game last week. So let's go ahead and talk about the game last week to open up the show. I think we'll have a little bit more on our minds from this past weekend and a little bit more to talk about. It's a little bit of a haze as far as specifics go from last week's game on Wednesday, not only because of the time that it was played, but just the time that's passed since. Dan, what were your thoughts about it?
Well, it reminded me of a certain Manchester United Champions League final against Bayern Munich, where the whole game they played 1-0 down and then came back to win it in the last 2 minutes of overtime or extra time to 2-1. It was an awful game. We were so bad, but we still managed to grind out the win, which was absolutely fantastic.
That lineup, that fucking lineup. Good God.
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? 4-3-3?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys experienced it, but every single app that was having a lineup was putting a front three of Tito, Martinez, and Remedi.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was seeing too.
So that was crazy. But I thought, Gressel had a shocking game. He was so bad. He got that assist for Tito's first goal. But I think he got 56% passing percentage, which is, I think that's one of the worst I've ever seen. But just the elation of getting that 4th goal, I felt kind of bad, but it's not like we cheated or anything. We played to the rules of the game.
I don't think that we've had one of those yet, have we? Have we had any that we've won in stoppage time yet?
The Orlando game, last game at Bobby Dodd.
No, we didn't win that. We tied.
That was a draw, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we equalized in the last couple.
Right, but we haven't had one that we've won.
No.
We haven't had a game that we've won in stoppage time, and we haven't had a game where we've come back from being more than a point down. To come back from being 3 points down.
Yeah, almost. Yeah,
almost.
Almost to mention Brittany. Yeah, she mentioned last week in the trap. She said she wanted to see Wondolowski break the record last week. You almost got your wish, and an Atlanta United win.
Yeah, exactly.
That was as close as I really wanted that to come. Yeah, obviously handball kind of derailed that, right?
Yeah. So let's huddle up about that. Thoughts on the fact we saw it happen a couple of months ago, and we made note of it, where VAR, the way it's written, is that the official cannot go back to review the play until the ball has gone out of the field of play, essentially. So if an event takes place or transpires and run of play continues, even if it's for 10 minutes without going out of bounds or a foul being called, the ref can still go back and review the play that happened 10 minutes prior. A month or so ago, we saw it happen in the River Derby, and NYC, I think it was, had a play where they moved it all the way down to the other end of the field. They had a scoring opportunity that got deflected, and they ultimately didn't put in the goal, but the ball was reviewed and went back to the other side of the field where a free kick was awarded, and New York Red Bulls, I think that was the way it transpired, had an opportunity to take a free kick on goal at that point in time. This is the first time we've seen it take place where the opposing team has transferred possession and then gone to the other end of the field, scored to stop the run of play, and then the official used that as the ability to stop the run of play or stop and review the previous missed handball. All that said, in that amount of time, a minute and a half transpired of play, which a lot of people are debating what is an adequate amount of time to let take place. Is it correct in the way that it's set up now that it has to be that the ball goes out of play before the ref can make the decision to go to VAR? Is it a length of time thing? What are your thoughts on the way it's structured currently?
Wait, I thought the amount of play was more like 30 seconds, but the amount of time that kind of passed between until he awarded the penalty was like almost 2 minutes.
It was a good bit of time either way. Whether it was 30 seconds or a minute and a half, it was still a good bit of time that the ball was pinging around and possession transferring. I mean, the players all had given up on anything taking place, and
well, that's true.
For all intents and purposes, I kind of forgot that it took place. Just even though it was, whether it was 30 seconds or a minute and 30 seconds, it was long enough that the players and some of the spectators completely forgot it happened.
I think we had a similar situation happen at Mercedes-Benz in one of the first few games that we played in that really crazy stretch. And I can't remember if it was against who did we play? It might have been LA or New England or one of those teams where I think there was a handball that was in the box against them, wasn't called. Ball gets down to our end after like a minute, and it finally goes out of play, and then we see the referee go back and make that decision. I don't know. I'm kind of torn about it. This is one of the hard parts about VAR is whenever you have these corner cases that happen. I mean, the odds of this happening, it's what, twice so far really this season that there have been two pronounced incidences of this. I don't know that it's enough to really warrant a rule change, but if it were, I think at a certain instance, I mean, the VAR is there to consult with the referee that's on the field to say, I think you might need to go look at this. Yeah. Usually, I don't know what the conversion rate is, but typically those are overturned or the reason they went to VAR is called or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, if they thought it was a handball, they go and look. It's usually a handball. I don't know how much that's changed. You know, I've missed quite a few MLS games this year. So, but to me, the only way to really do this is to treat it, this is going to sound stupid, and I'm fully aware of that, treat it like a head injury where you go ahead and blow dead. I mean, if the VAR is that confident that something happened, that you're going to judge a foul, I think at that point, it's okay to whistle down and say, we need to stop play so that we don't have an incident happen like this where Chris Wondolowski scores
start to really affect the pace of play.
Well, you give it a timer, right? Like maybe you do set a timer. Maybe that's what happens. You set a 30-second timer, or I mean,
so what? Go ahead.
So Dan. If that happens though, the ref is the one who's saying, okay, I'm going to go he's going to decide whether he's going to take a look at VAR. So if he decides to take a look at VAR and decides that VAR is wrong and he's not going to change the ruling or whatever, then you've just blown the play dead when really nothing happened.
Yeah, Richard Gordon's got a really good idea. I think they should have some kind of signal, like a flag that goes up to let it be known that there's a pending infraction.
So like hockey. I mean, where we're looking at in soccer, typically whenever a referee sees a foul and plays advantage, I mean, in hockey, typically that advantage.
Well, it's almost like a flag in football. You know, it's.
Oh, that's true.
You know, like you get a flag for offsides, but the offense still has the opportunity to run the play out and then accept the penalty or not at the end of it. But you know that something is, unless it's a false start that blows it dead, like something like an offsides where they'll throw the flag, but they won't stop play. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, so what do you do in that instance, Dan? Like if we were to go with something like that, where there is a delayed ruling, where we're looking at this and maybe we put the ruling in the hands of the VAR at that point or something like that. But what happens when you do have a situation like last Wednesday when Wondolowski scores that goal?
Or what if Wondolowski takes it down and takes a shot on goal and somebody throws their hands up and swats the ball down? and VAR or that's probably more blatant. But what if somebody? But still, I mean, because the VAR review takes precedent, right? Because then it wipes away everything that takes place subsequent to that. So if Wondolowski takes it down there and there's some sort of exchange and somebody gets a red card, does that get wiped away whenever you go back and award the PK?
Yeah, because everything's wiped away.
Right.
That's the hard part, right, Dan? Is that if there's an infraction that takes place, you're taking, like, you're kind of creating a hypothetical, right? Because you're saying, well, this foul would have stopped play, so we're going to completely wipe away everything that happened after the fact.
Well, my fear is that it encourages players to do unnecessary fouls to stop play,
like I do in FIFA.
Review something.
Yeah, I do that in FIFA all the time.
But if players are going to do that, they will be retroactively fined and suspended.
Yes, for sure.
I mean, even if they do something, like if they jump up and swat the ball away, it's not going to count because, you know, somebody scored a goal and that didn't count. So I kind of feel like if they're going to stop letting goals count, then you can kind of do whatever you want and it's not going to count.
Brian says the simplest solution might be to just get rid of it altogether. I don't think that's the right case. I think we've seen enough good come of it. This one being in our favor, I think, is one of those instances. I think we've seen enough good out of VAR to warrant it remaining in the game. I think that there are still a lot of growing pains associated with it that are yet to be worked out. I think that it may be a situation where we've seen fouls get called that weren't previously called based on VAR. I feel like that has to be called by the ref and then upheld or overturned, not the other way around, where the ref is then relying on VAR to decide intent and all of that. Handball, I think, is a different thing altogether because it's easy for the ref to miss something like that based on his perspective or his angle to not be able to see something. I think that's perfectly acceptable for the officials in the booth to radio down to him and say, you might want to take another look at that.
I don't think VAR is going away.
I don't know.
I think because, like, in 10 years' time, we're not going to be talking about, well, why don't they get rid of VAR? Well, that's just not going to happen. It's just going to be accepted as part of the game. It's just part of how the game's evolving to the modern era. But the other thing is, oh, damn it, I completely lost my train of thought. Yeah, if you put a flag up or something, then players on the field are going to see that. So, you know, then they could do stuff like just kick the ball out of bounds because they know something.
Well, that's what game was that happened against Atlanta, where I forget who it was that was wasting time, wouldn't take the corner kick, basically forcing the ref's hand.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was Costa Rica or something. Or it was probably the Germans. Yeah, I could see the Germans.
What game was that happened this year? Was that Philly?
Yeah, I think it was Philly. Right? Yeah, because Bedoya wasn't he was time wasting to try and get that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Philly. Yeah.
Or Clayton
said Seattle.
Yeah, saying Seattle. That's right. That makes me think. I think it was Ladero that was doing all that time wasting.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not a surprise.
Everybody, everybody just piling up.
One thing I think that would really help VAR is increasing the understanding of the fans and people watching the game of what's happening. So if you actually showed on TV what the ref is looking at, then you can see, okay, well, that's instantly, you know, what he's looking at, rather than just having a stupid still shot of some idiot looking at a video screen. And then you don't, in the NFL, when they're reviewing a play, they play it on the Jumbotron as well?
Yeah, they do. And the other thing that's confusing about VAR is that the officials have different camera angles that they don't even have in the like the booth for the telecast or whatever. They'll say, you know, they have different angles that we don't even have access to, which I think should not be the case because that just adds to the confusion.
No, not just that. It adds to speculative anger, I guess, because people watching at home are going to get pissed because they don't have that angle that was, let's say they do have a clear and obvious angle. The angles that Eric Quintana gets that are clear and obvious.
Out of control.
Yeah, a lot of people echoing the same sentiments about VAR. It's not going away. Clayton Paw saying that it's what did he say? VR is just going to have its moments, just like any review system. I'm fine with that. My problem is the time limits. I know Brittany asked why VAR takes so long, which we saw early on in the season. It was taking less time, and it seems like they're reverting back to last season where it is taking them more time. So it's just, I think we're going to get our bearings. I don't know. A lot of people in the chat talking about referees not being good enough for this. And
there's never going to be a solution that fits everybody or works the best for everybody. Somebody is always going to be at the losing end of a decision. That's just the reality of it.
My problem, Dan, is that a referee in soccer has a much different responsibility than so many referees otherwise. I think that subjectivity comes into play with infractions in soccer more so than it does in any others.
Yeah.
Like there is, like in basketball, I mean, it happens occasionally with shooting fouls and that, but I mean, traveling is typically traveling, double dribble is typically double dribble, stepping out of bounds is typically, they're not going to miss that. And the same thing goes for flagrant fouls and things of that nature. But in soccer, it's like handball. Handball is a perfect example.
I think pass interference is kind of getting pretty close to that. Where it's just up to the way the ref feels.
What's the tackle? What's a catch?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think part of this is the transition between just the transition between eras. So as our technology gets more advanced, we're able to track a lot of variables that were previously unable to be tracked. So for something like baseball, that's really easy to track any sort of like stat that you want. But because soccer is so fluid, it's a lot more difficult to do that. So back in like the 1930s, all you knew of guys was how many goals they've scored, if you knew that. But now we're able to track, you know, how much distance did a guy run around the field in a game? Like where a pass is coming from. I mean, there's so much more stats that we can track. And I feel like it's just we're in those awkward teenage years of we're in those awkward teenage years of just coming to terms with it and letting it being smoothed out into the game so it's not noticeable anymore.
Yeah, it's not ruining the game for me. I mean, benefits aside from last week, I still, to me, it
just depends. I mean, I've seen it really hinder the viewing experience. I've seen it benefit it and benefit the game, especially whenever you're on the winning side of it. But being a impartial third party to the Orlando DC United game, as third party as you can get, as like impartial as you can get, the end of that game, to those that remember, the last 15, 20 minutes of that game, the ball didn't go out of play without them going back to VAR. And that, I think that's the fear, is that it does become something like that it can hinder the pace of play or something like that. So while I agree overall, it's not ruined my experience, I think it has the potential to, if we do get too critical or too, what's the word I'm looking for? Reliant on it, I guess. So
use it as a crutch.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I don't see that happening right now. So, yeah, the hope is that PRO or whoever is the refereeing body going forward needs to be able to reprimand referees that do that.
Yeah.
Because we do see that happening. So let's talk about the good parts of this game. Let's get away from VAR. Not a whole lot of them.
Well, fought back and showed the mental fortitude to fight back from being down. I mean, we joke about being down 3 goals, but in all seriousness, being down 2 goals, going into the half, I thought that goal by Villalba was, I mean, that was a Villalba goal. That seems to be his. If you were to come up with a drawing or a diagram or some sort of snapshot of the picturesque Villalba goal, he's done it multiple times against Orlando. Happens again last week. That shot from right outside the 18, just putting it opposite post in the side net. manages to pull it out, give Atlanta a fighting chance going into half, being down 2-1. And I think we all expected to see a little bit of a momentum change coming out in the second half. Doesn't necessarily go that way. Atlanta falls down 2 points at that point in time. And to see them not get their heads down and not give up, and then to play through it, yes, they got a little bit of help along the way to help bring them back, but they still needed to put up those other 2 goals, especially the one at the very end by Martinez. I think that's a really, really big positive to talk about this team.
Yeah, that Tito goal they just like that one, 2 against Orlando have just come out of nowhere. And it's just, it just lifts your spirits so much. And I love him for it. He wasn't my favorite player last year, or maybe towards the end, but now he's really growing a place in my heart.
So, really good discussion going on in the trap right now between goal of the week, between Martinez's goal, or not Martinez, Villalba's goal and Gressel's goal. If you had to make a choice between the two, which one would it be for you guys?
Oh, it's Tito's.
Dan?
Yeah, I'd have to go Tito too.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement there.
Well, the thing that you say it was a Tito goal, I think just because of the distance that it was at, but it was so much more finesse than power as opposed to the Montreal goal or the Orlando goal that he scored down in Orlando.
Yeah. And Gressel had so much time to take that shot as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
we all saw Gressel's. It's like, oh, he's got it. It's just picture perfect. Had time to settle it, put it in front of him, and just put it away. Yeah, Tito just puts that one in the only way he can, out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I know we don't really care about it, but MLS goal of the week, who would you guys choose between Gressel, Tito? I think a tie got one, and oh, damn it. What is his name? Varco.
Varco? Is that some weird new...
No, that's San Jose. The San Jose goal.
I didn't see it. To be honest, Dan, I didn't see any of them. If Atlanta's up to be voted for, that's the one that gets my vote. I don't even bother looking at the other ones.
It was the 3rd San Jose goal that they scored against us, where he dribbled around our entire...
Oh, yeah. That one was embarrassing.
It was.
He just, I mean, just cut through all 3 of our defenders at that point in time and then just slotted it away. Yeah, that was demoralizing. Yeah, I would still put up Tito's, obviously.
Yeah, I actually really thought San Jose scored some pretty nice goals. I thought Hosen's goal, their second goal, was so audacious, just putting that chip over Parkhurst and Guzan. I thought Parkhurst gave him way too much space.
Yeah,
that was pretty special. I was like, God damn it, that's a good goal. But
it was great. I mean, the composure that Husen had to do that was crazy. I mean, to get there on the counter and then to just boss Michael Parkhurst like that.
Everybody thought the play was over.
And then to fake and then calmly just, all right, I'm going to go top corner with this. Yeah. I'm going to chip this from inside the box into the top. Yeah, that was pretty special. What else from that game?
Bill Holcomb mentioned a good point, and I think statistically it holds up. I think we did really dominate that game, and they just got us on some counters. But it's still tough to watch that take place, where you've got to be better than that, because it wasn't all just quick counters and catching us out of position. That third goal is a prime example of that, where he cut 3 defenders that were all in a position to make a play and then slotted it past Guzan. It was just bad performance in moments where you've got to be better and make better plays. So
I mean, I think the main thing to me was they're the worst team in the league. And I can't remember who said it on Twitter. We played the best version of that team probably anybody's played all season, because they got up for that game.
Well, they got up for that game because they have a new coach. They've got their new interim
Steve Ralston. I saw him. I was like, I know that guy. Yeah, I was like, oh shit, he's from those like New England Revolution teams with Taylor Twellman and Charlie Joseph, and
that's what a lot of people were thinking was, they've got their new interim head coach. These guys are going to come out, show out against the best, and try to prove something. And I think they did every bit of that. And hats off to them. They came up short. I'm glad that Atlanta came out on the better end of it, but it was a hell of a performance by them. So,
yeah,
it was.
Just again, 19 shots. One of our goals was a PK.
Yeah,
just better conversion rate than we've had, but at the same time, it's just chickens coming home to roost with missed chances too.
Yeah, we are. I mean, to Keith Filer and Kelly's points, I mean, every team is going to play their best against Atlanta. It is the best way I can describe it is the Bama simplex or complex. Simplex complex.
Herpes simplex?
Gross. No, I meant to say complex. Where we're the best and everybody wants to take their shot to take us down, and they're going to throw everything they can at us. And we saw that in full effect last week. So,
yeah, good job, San Jose, but you still lost.
I like your little triceratops you have on your mic, Dan.
Oh, thanks, man.
What? I didn't see that.
Yeah, I don't have it up on the TV right now.
It's probably for the best. All right, now on to Freudian slip, Bill. That was definitely it. It's incurable.
Freud's lip. That's where Freudian's lip is where the herpes simplex usually lands.
Where it lands.
Man, I'm getting a lot of comments on my hair today, which is very strange. It doesn't look very good. I left.
I love that Michelle just asked if you were wearing a George Best hairdo.
I think someone else was saying that it looks like the best Alabama haircut they've ever seen.
Oh yeah, Bill. I think Bill said you're rocking Bama bangs right now.
Yeah.
I think that's what we had in middle school and high school. Whenever the redneck kids would shave their head except for their bangs, and then they would dye their bangs blonde.
Yeah. All right. So this past weekend against RSL, we always start off these conversations with the lineup, and no better game to discuss that than the lineup we saw this past weekend.
Dan, you might want to tune out for this.
Yeah. So you guys have completely taken one little thing and you've blown it up.
Here it comes. True. Here it comes.
Because you can't just
backpedal your way out of it.
I'm not backpedaling. Go re-listen to that show. You were trying to say just because someone had one good game at ATL2 that they should be awarded with putting on the bench.
It's illegal.
That's not great.
You know it's illegal to backpedal so much that you wear down your odometer. You reverse your odometer right there.
Yeah, I think that's fraud. I think this needs a VAR right now, because I'm pretty sure you were saying that he needed to play at least this entire season with Atlanta United 2. Then maybe you'd considering putting him into the 18 after a couple more years.
He has to go on loan. He has to go on loan to Charleston Battery for 3 years, and then come back, maybe go play for Nashville SC, and then come and maybe supplant Chris McCann. And
Bello's mellow yellow fellows.
I mean, he's basically played a season, though. I mean, basically has not played a season in ATL senior team.
Well, you know what?
He came and played in the fifth to last game of the season. So we're not throwing him in week 3 like you were suggesting. You know, we've let him develop, and now we're playing him.
I think he would have been great then, just like he was now, and I think he would be better now had he been in the 18 then, because it would have boosted his confidence a little bit more, and then he would have had that. He would have had that edge and that drive.
Yeah.
So,
well, that would have been cool if that actually happened, but it didn't.
Yeah. Well, you know what did happen? He got the call up this weekend, and it was fucking great.
It was fucking great. I loved it.
I keep having.
He played so good.
It's hashtag Bello's boys.
Yes.
Yes. I keep having the little Bow Wow Ghetto Girls hook in my head, but Bello boys. Just all day. Every day. Yeah, just to go back to the lineup, we had a 3-5-2 with obviously Guzan, LGP, Larry, and then Escobar in the back.
Yeah. So healthy Escobar starting and George Bello in the backfield.
Well, I guess it was a 3-4-2-1 is what it looked like whenever you actually put it on the field with Bello and Gressel playing wing backs, and then Nagbe and Remedi just dominating shit in the midfield. Tito and then Miggy, and then Joseph.
Wasn't that great to see Remedi, Nagbe, and Jeff all together on the field?
Shit, it was. It really was. So let's go ahead and start with the conversation about Bello. I think that's going to take the bulk of the conversation.
I like that. Odale la Bello boys.
Olale Bello boys. Oh my God.
Oh, I love it.
So kid's a beast.
So yeah, I think that the sky's the limit for him. I think that his inexperience showed in the second half, not necessarily in his run of play, but in his stamina and capacity to run full clip for a full 90 minutes at that level of play. So other than that, I felt like he was consistently making plays both on the back line and moving the ball forward for a lot of really fun and dynamic link-up play with Martinez, specifically up top. But I think that's my biggest concern, is just some of his stamina and endurance that he'll develop and grow into as he plays more.
No, I agree. The second half for sure. I mean, like you said, his stamina was not up to snuff because he's fast. He has that pace to track back, but he got caught out a few times. Not that playing wing back, you didn't necessarily have to be on your man at all times. He did have trouble getting back to get in front of the man a couple times. He still played well enough. I don't know what you thought, Dan, but whenever he did get caught out and running those guys down, getting side by side with them, not in front of them, but side by side with them enough to force them to take a shot from a bad angle. So it wasn't necessarily, he still made up for some of his lapses in the second half, I thought.
Yeah, his decision making was fantastic. He would play the ball with his first touch and it would go right to where he was intending it to go. I really wish that he would have got a better first touch from the cross from the pass from Martinez, where Bello was able to charge into the box.
God, I thought he was going to slot that in, and the stadium would have erupted.
It would have gone absolutely crazy. There is a really good thread that Joe Patrick tweeted out from Scuffed at ZLEBMADA, and they put together a really huge series of GIFs which shows, and commentary, which shows some of the plays that Bello put together on the field. It's it's probably the most in-depth analysis I've seen on Twitter, and it's a really interesting thread. So you should probably go check that out. It's got a ton of potential. I cannot wait to see him next season, as he will probably be starting.
Before I forget, I do want to back up to before the game started. The flag that Domer had put together, despite how great it looked, and those feeble little arms of DeAndre, who could not wave it for the full 90 minutes. If we're going to talk about stamina and players getting a call up, there's no player I'm more disappointed in than DeAndre for not waving that Unite flag for the full 90 minutes. Every time I looked over to that supporter section, it just seemed limp and half there. So I think that you've got some. Maybe we need to take you down to the twos, let you develop a little bit more. Even the best, Domer said that those big 4 meter by 4 meter flags were tough to wave for the entire game. But it was really cool to see the new flags. And then I don't know if it was part of the reason why or inspiration why.
I'm going to ruin it for you.
What was it? It's not. I don't think it was.
It was Jay. Jay's nothing's gonna stop us.
Oh, okay.
His using
that
the spike
is
as a microphone.
Totally fine with me.
Yeah.
But either way, it was really cool to see the flag up with the 3 C's that I had put together, and then the TIFO design, which was really similar to that, and I had no idea about it. So
I'll cut DeAndre a little slack because you won't. Joe Johnstone says he waved it for a full 30 minutes before the game. We love you, DeAndre. We're just giving you shit.
Hell out of
yeah,
you, I got
really
a magnet with your name on it, by the way. I'll bring it to pick up tomorrow. If you're listening to this, and give it to you for waving it.
Yeah, we had
champion.
Our flag, Angie's flag was out there. A couple other ones.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe Johnson says he has a video proof, so he needs to tweet that at us.
He did. He tweeted it to us. He did tweet it to us. You would know if you were competent at internet or technology.
Oh, well, I'm not competent at that, so.
All right. Speaking of another tweet we got, Bill Holcomb, our buddy, homie, sent us a suggestion on Monday to chat about, which we were going to chat about anyway. And somebody brought up whether or not there's word on Garza right now. I don't remember who asked that, if there was word on Garza. Anyway, Bill Holcomb asking what happens with Garza in this Bello scenario. What happens? Do we trade? Do we hold on to Bello? Obviously, I mean, I thought that we could.
Bello can't trade. We can't trade him next year, right? Isn't he with us for at least one more year?
We could. I think we can actually sell him tomorrow, and he just would not be able to make his debut for another team until he was 18. But then again, it's
I don't know that Garza is going to be here for 2 more years if he can stay. I have real concerns about Garza staying healthy.
Well, I think, okay, so here's my opinion on this. I love Greg Garza to death. I thought that he was crucial last season. I thought he was great again in the beginning of this season. He fits this team really well whenever he's healthy. The problem is, again, his health. But then the other problem is we have George Bello, who I'm going to go ahead and say it, and I don't care if it's a hot take or what. He will be the starting men's national team left back over Anthony Robinson in, say, like 2 years.
Yeah,
I think that he is playing full minutes, and getting call-ups every single time U.S. men's national team has games. We have Jose Hernandez, who came in and looked pretty damn serviceable in that little bit of time that we saw him. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot that way, but whenever it did come his way, he looked competent. He looked fine. He's fast enough. He's 21 years old, I think. 21, 22 years old.
Yep, sounds good.
No need to necessarily keep Garza in this situation. I think that it makes sense if you're able to offload him for some TAM, because he has a hefty contract.
I like Brian Diefenbach's suggestion and some of the others that I don't think this is a discussion about Garza or Bello as much as it is there's no reason to keep McCann at this point. That Bello could potentially end up being your number 2. You don't have to make that decision right now. If you've got him for another year, you delay it until the end of next year, allow Garza to build up his stock, and potentially get rid of Garza after next season. Let him get healthy, let him play consistently, let Bello develop, and then Bello is your starter going into the 2020 season.
Why though? I don't. I know I'm a hashtag play your kids guy, but there's nothing to me that says at this point, let's see. I guess we'll see in the next 4 weeks of the season what happens with George Bello. I guess even further. I mean, we just got our playoff tickets. Did you get yours?
I guess so.
If you're a season ticket holder, they kind of slyly sent us an email and they're like, "Hey, just keep on doing what you're doing, and you'll get debited for the first playoff game of the season."
It's on my credit card. So.
Yeah. Anyway. There's nothing to me outside of a precipitous drop in form from George Bello over the next 4 weeks and then into the playoffs that tells me that he's at all worse in any facet than Greg Garza is.
But again, it goes back to you've got to think about your depth at that position. So if you get rid of Garza, then you're going to put Bello in and keep McCann as your number 2?
No, I'm going to keep Jose Hernandez as my number 2. McCann is better served to me as a center back in a back 3.
Oh, I don't.
No,
I liked it. I'm sorry. He had a rough start to that whenever we were playing the 3-5-2, but then he quickly became a viable option back there. Okay. Regardless, Jose Hernandez is your number 2 behind George Bello. And you could trade away Greg Garza for Tam and Gam, whatever you want to do.
I don't know. I mean, I'm interested to see what Dan says, because we've only seen Hernandez play for a minimal amount of time. And by his standards, he needs at least 10,000 hours to be able to play.
That's Malcolm Gladwell said that.
No, Dan Gladwell.
I'm honored you think so highly of me, Kevin.
Can we get Dan to get the Malcolm Gladwell hair? Get him a little curly.
I'm just going to shave it all off.
Do it, man.
So what I hate about McCann is he's really expensive. Also, what I hate about McCann is he's been kind of serviceable. He also can fit in. He can service you at left back. He can service you at center midfield and as a center back in the 3-5-2. So I don't want to pay the type of money that we're paying for him.
Because I forgot about it. Ambrose is my backup. Hernandez, I'm not sold on quite yet.
Okay, 3 left backs is 3 more than most teams in MLS have. That's one of the hardest positions for you to fill.
Well, right now we've got 5.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying is, I am saying I agree with you, Tim, but not because of Hernandez as the argument, but because of Ambrose as the argument. If you say that you've got Ambrose and Bello as your 1-2 versus Bello and Hernandez as
Ambrose is your number 1?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm
alphabetically
just saying,
speaking.
Yeah. I think that that's a better argument than Bello and Hernandez is for me personally.
Okay. I don't know that we don't have to worry that much about cap room next year. We'll have to concede the fact that Miggy is going to go to Europe, right? There's no doubt about that. Yeah. We're going to have to concede that Joseph is going to Europe next season.
I don't know. I'm not sold on that one yet.
Well, Tata said that
if Tata leaves, Joseph's gone. If Tata stays, I think Joseph stays.
He said that his mission was in 2 years to get Joseph back to Europe.
I know he said that.
And I think that Joseph is going to go to Europe. I think just stay away from Italy.
Finish your points.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know that we're really going to be strapped for cash. So it's not necessarily that we have to trade Garza away for that, but we're going to have a lot in the salary cap because
unless they take away a DP slot like they're talking about, which Bill Holcomb mentions. There's been a lot of talk this week about the league
only going to a 2
going
DP
to
slot?
a 2 DP slot.
I have not seen that.
Yeah.
I've had my head in the sand, obviously.
It is fucking stupid to take away a 3rd DP spot and raise TAM. Or what you should do is keep 3 DP spots and raise TAM. It's so stupid. We're progressing backwards if we do that.
We call that regressing in the States, Dan.
We should. Okay. We should.
Sorry, finish your point, Dan.
We shouldn't be pandering to the bottom feeders of the league. Those bottom feeders will eventually be, I'm just going to say it, they're going to be gentrified.
Well, that's why you need to have ProRail, right?
No, because you don't need that, because if they're going to be gentrified, it means they're not going to be able to have the cash to compete. And therefore, if MLS keeps growing in popularity,
and then you're just going to move into the neighborhood and set up your Walmart and just push them out.
Hipsters don't like Walmart. No. You're going to come in and tear down the Walmart so the normal man can't shop, and
put up a Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's and Nitro Brew Cold Brew, and
I'm telling you that a bigger investor is either going to come in and move the team, or a bigger investor is going to come in, buy the team, and then pump a ton of money into it.
So, okay, back to your point, Tim. You were saying about everybody that you think is going to end up leaving. Dan,
now I don't know what to think.
Dan, you had a follow-up to the point on Joseph.
So yeah, what Tim was saying is right that Tata said in 2 years, he promised Joseph he was going to try and get him into Europe. But the thing is, that was before everything that we've seen. And Joseph has already been to Europe once, obviously, we all know that. But he loves Atlanta, and this could be his peak. This could be his pinnacle. So if he's having such a good time here, does he want to risk that? Because Arthur Blank is going to pay him.
Right. And to go back to your point about Tata saying that, have we heard Joseph come out and publicly make a declaration in the same manner that Miggy has said, Europe is the destination for me. That's where I want to be.
Right.
As far as I know, Joseph has not come out and made a similar claim. Tata was
he said quite the opposite. Yeah. He said he loves Atlanta.
Right. Yeah. Tata's statement was in response to somebody else making the question about him getting Joseph to go to Europe. So I think if Tata stays, I think Joseph stays. And we should find out the Tata decision within the next week because his contract extension deadline is October 1st, I believe.
That's what I've heard.
So we'll find out within the next couple of days, I guess by the weekend.
Well, I think that he may make the decision, but I don't necessarily know that we will find out. Like, we don't really know how hard and fast that date is.
I think the team's going to need to find out.
I was going to say, unless that's illegal,
yeah.
I've never heard of a contract like somebody publicly saying this offer is only good until this date. Like, where is that October 1st date coming from?
No, I've seen that.
Just their 2-year, the 2-year agreement that he has with them, and then he has to make a decision.
That seems very odd. That the expiration date wouldn't be after the season is over.
No. It's not an expiration date of his contract. It's an expiration of date of when he needs to make a decision to pick up his option.
That's it.
So he can let the team know, hey, I'm going to leave. So now you've got however many months you have to find my replacement while I pay out the rest of my contract.
All right, so back to the trap here. Joe Johnstone, I'm assuming, making the comment in regards to Joseph afraid of failure after success. I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I think that Joseph's going to be successful anywhere he goes if it's in the right system, just as much as I can say that about Miggy or any of the other talented players that we have on our lineup. He's a lot closer to home for travel, for national team, loves Atlanta, super successful. He stays regardless is my thought from Keith. What else do we have? Richard Gordon, without an unselfish offense playing the way Atlanta does, Joseph is not the same player. That's a really good point. Back to the comment I made before, I think a lot of the success that some of these players are finding is based on the players around them and the way that the lineup is set and the way that the formation is set to support them, however that may be. Bill Holcomb, I bet if Tata leaves, Joseph sticks around until summer, goes at the normal European transfer window. That's a good call prediction there. Octavio, Mexican media have been fighting on whether or not Tata would be a good choice if those options were true. Keith Filer, Tata said to Doug Robertson that he has the offer and considering it. Yeah, we know he's got the offer on the table.
From Mexico, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think from
Atlanta United.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. All right. So other comments about the game this past weekend. So we covered Bello. We did kind of cover the Tata speculation. Any other comments on that? You think Tata stays or goes? If you got to make a call right now, you think he stays or goes?
Stays.
I think he stays. If you think he goes, why?
The prospects of a budding Mexican national team, the amount of young talent that they have, USA being kind of down right now. I don't know. It would be weird. And I only say it's weird because he's managed 2 other Latin American teams in Paraguay and Argentina. But it's hard
because
to
at the
turn
same
that
time,
down.
to your same point, he's with an organization with an owner that's willing to spend money to attract the young, talented players that the rest of the league isn't actively pursuing to change the mindset and the landscape of the league. That's clearly paying off and producing results as evident in the past 2 seasons. So I think that he's still finding the ability to do that. May not be on a national team level, but domestically to be able to lead an entire league and to change the mindset and to put his stamp on something in a meaningful way at the origin of it, to me, that seems like a no-brainer.
I think Bill's kind of articulating it better than I do. He thinks that he goes. He says Mexico has all the goods, and will he get another shot at a team that could win a World Cup? And that's interesting because you have 4 years really to mold guys like Chucky Lozano and Salcido, and I mean they're ushering out kind of the old guard.
So
I don't know.
So I think if you're managing an international team, like you said, Tim, you have 4 years. How much more managerial time has Tata had? So he could potentially do 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 World Cups. So that's what, almost 16 years. Thank you, Kevin. So he could do that. Is he going to be around to do 20 more years with 5 World Cups? That means you've got only a handful of chances to actually, with a Mexico team, who granted, like, form is temporary, and I feel like it's a much harder thing to do to win a World Cup. I mean, he could be the Alex Ferguson of the MLS if he stays with Atlanta.
I wonder how much that means to him. He's still relatively young when it comes to managers, but at the same time, I want to say there were talks last year where he was saying that he was going to ride this job out as his last.
That's what I remember.
Which seemed kind of odd at the time because I think he's 53, 54 years old, something like that. And
55. Does he still want to be managing at 75?
No.
As more popular as more successful as your international team is, the more pressure that you get put on yourself, just like the pressure he had in Argentina, and he hated that. So,
right, because I think the problem that he had in Argentina also was just the public spotlight and how he was constantly being put under a magnifying glass and having to be held accountable for every little thing that he did.
Right.
And even whenever they were winning, it was, why aren't you winning by more? Stuff like that, versus the adoration and love and respect that he's gotten from the community here. I don't see the reasoning for leaving. I guess others, it seems to be pretty split. I really don't know.
I want to give a special shout out to Gustavo Rodriguez in the live chat in the trap. I've never seen him pop up. He did give us a nice long thread of the some of the media conversations surrounding Tata, and he says 80% he stays, 20% he leaves for Argentina, 0% Mexico, Colombia, USMNT, Miami, or Newell's Old Boys. That's interesting because the prospects of Mexico are enticing to me, but I'm also, again, like I said earlier, I think it would be weird to see him managing Mexico. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I feel like his system is so, it's relatively intense, and you really want to get the players to play for a system, and your system needs to be sustainable. It can't just be run and gun the whole time.
And he's built a culture. I mean, I feel like you have much more control over the development, longevity, and impact of a team at a club level like Atlanta United or at a league level, because you see those guys 8 or 9 months out of the year and you're in that locker room, versus the friendlies and qualifying games that you have in the week of practice leading up to it for an international spot, which he's already played a role in. That, along with the cycle that Dan mentioned, it seems that his mindset is on building a culture and building something bigger rather than just an international thing to hang his hat on.
What's the longest he's ever stayed in one post?
2 years, I think.
And that was at Barcelona or Argentina?
I think if you can go look at it, I think he was at Newell's for 2. He managed.
He was at Paraguay for 4 years.
Oh, so one cycle potentially.
Yeah, 2007 to 2011, and then from there, he's really never spent more than 2 seasons. So this is, I don't know. Yeah.
Do I think he's going to be here for 8 years? No.
No.
Do I think that he leaves after just 2 for a club that he's changing in a significant way and seeing an upward trend? A big problem with the Barcelona, which was the other club, was, again, it was the same deal with the magnifying glass. You're winning by 5 goals. Why aren't you winning by 6? Stuff like that. Versus Atlanta, which is, I mean, this city and this club idolizes him in a way that it's, and then the front office as well. I don't see any reason for him to leave right now. I think it has an expiration date. I don't think it's much longer than that 4 to 5 year window, but I don't see it being 2 years personally.
Yeah. And I kind of see international jobs, and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but they seem to be more sort of positions that you take if either you're a younger manager and you're trying to get into a better position for potential suitors in the future, or you're trying to get, you've had not the greatest success, but you're trying to get back into a certain scene. Yeah, I feel like it's a lot more of a transitional role than something that's, more permanent and stable.
That's interesting you say that. I mean, England's a prime example of that. And you have the exact, like you have both of those scenarios playing out over and over again whenever you go from Sven-Göran Eriksson to Roy Hodgson to Gareth Southgate, Steve McLaren in there at one point. These aren't guys that you normally see.
Fabio Capello.
Yeah, Capello, to your point. I mean, and then you look at the guys that kind of cycle around through Brazil and Portugal, between, like Felipe Scolari or Gus Hiddink coming in, pretty much being a mercenary head coach or manager, whatever. And then he goes and tries to get a job. He goes and he's caretaker at Chelsea, or he goes and manages at Chelsea. Yeah, it's a good point, Dan, because it really, I think it kind of ties into what Kevin's saying, where I think a technical director is more so going to be your long-lasting legacy type job in charge of a federation, because you're going to be able to give more of a footprint there, because you're not just handling the first team, you're handling the youth setups, you're handling your scouts, you're handling all that stuff. From a coaching standpoint, you're right. I mean, it's pretty limited in what you're doing in your day-to-day. I mean, you can only, Tata loves writing up lineups, right? And he loves writing down tactics, but at the same time, he's waiting weeks upon weeks between those training sessions. It's going to get kind of probably going to get kind of monotonous. I don't know. I love the man to death, and if he were to leave, I completely understand.
I think that for everybody, there's nobody, because of the success, and I feel like everybody's invested in this team and in the lineup and in the players and coaching and front office, that if anybody leaves, I absolutely wish the best for him. It was the same thing with Carmona, same thing with Assad. There's not a player on this team that I wish any ill will towards or don't want to see be as successful, if not more so than they were here.
Yeah, I guess we'll cross that bridge.
Better for us, because we helped put them in a position to do so.
We'll cross that bridge whenever we get there. I like what Gustavo said. He said he thinks that Mexico and Colombia are just the usual lobby. I'm guessing what he's saying is, they're kind of just pumping up that job, kind of pumping up rumors and that sort of thing. The same things we saw. I don't even think we talked about it a couple weeks ago whenever they were talking about David Moyes being the successor to Tata Martino in Atlanta. It really probably was only David Moyes' PR team trying to get some publicity behind him to try and get him a high-profile job again. We'll cross the bridge when we get there, I guess. Yeah. Until then, I hope it's not a distraction for anybody. I really don't think the way that he manages it's gonna distract anybody in the locker room.
No, Cornelius, you're right on time, man. We still got time. All right. So any other thoughts on the game from
Real Salt Lake game? I thought we played outstandingly well all game. I think that the offsides trap, intentional or not, was on fire against them.
Again, showing the maturity and the awareness of Bello more than the other guys, because that is a very technical and mature thing to have to do as a player, that you're not playing with those guys regularly to pull the offsides trap and to have the awareness of where you are in relationship to the other defenders to catch those guys up top offsides as consistently as Atlanta was able to do. And then the one or two times that it didn't work out, to be able to track back and recover. I thought Bello did a great job at it.
We got to think about it. George Bello has been training with the first team, Dan, for how long? 3 months, something like that?
I know. He played a couple of guys on side, which made the offside trap not work. He played all right, but I think I don't think he was.
I think it was more the back three that was really working really well on that offside trap.
But yeah, we played him offside a whole bunch.
Yeah, I think they had nine offsides call.
Was it really that many?
I think it was 9.
That's crazy. I didn't realize it was that prevalent throughout the game. I really didn't see too much of a threat from Real Salt Lake during the game. I thought that, I don't know. Everybody played really well together. I think that we were unfortunate in Nick Romano getting a couple good saves. I think it was it Tito, his first shot, Dan, that should have gone in?
Left post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Someone told me that Romano had a finger to that, but it was a great effort though.
He did. Yeah. I think Romano did tip it.
In our most complete game.
Who was that?
I feel like the Real Salt Lake game was Atlanta United's most complete game that we've had so far.
Yeah, and we did it playing a makeshift back line without Michael Parkhurst, right? I mean, you have Lorenowitz, LGP, and Escobar back there.
And I think, to Bello's credit, he was a large part of that as well.
So, okay, closing comments, because we gotta move our thoughts, and we got a big game this weekend. Anything else on Real Salt Lake before we start talking about Red Bulls?
Nagby was outstanding.
Nagby,
again, just sucking all the energy out of the midfield, like taking all of their energy away and being able to control that.
Escobar, I felt like, had a much better game against Real Salt Lake than he had last week against San Jose. I thought that he looked really rusty against San Jose.
Yeah, it's probably just a matter of his injury layoff.
Yeah.
Gressel, outstanding again, man of the match.
Yeah.
Dan, anything else that positives, negatives that you saw from Saturday's game?
Just to echo the what you said on Nagby, he was immense. I thought Guzan had some really good saves and bailed us out. I think probably about twice. He was great. Good job, everyone. Good job, Atlanta United.
So, looking towards the Red Bulls game.
Well, first, there's a final. New York City FC 2-0 against Chicago.
And Houston 2-0 against Philly.
Is that over?
I believe so.
Okay.
Should be close.
Dynamo have a trophy.
Yes. A real one, unlike the ones that Orlando touts, but that's a different
Sunday, 1:00 in New Jersey at Red Bull Stadium, Red Bull Arena, whatever.
Before we talk about that, I do know Unrelegated is doing a watch party in Marietta. They'll be recording leading up to and after the game. So be sure to check them out on Twitter, UnrealATL. And I can't, unfortunately, the place that they're at slips me. But be sure to go check those guys out. And if you haven't heard of them, be sure to find them on iTunes. You can search Home Before Dark Network and get all of the content, including Mills Has Friends, or just search them out specifically, Unrelegated Podcast. This Sunday, 1:00 in Jersey, big headline going into this game. Bradley Wright Phillips gets the yellow card for dissent this past weekend and now has yellow card accumulation. Their top goal scorer, second in the league only to our very own Joseph Martinez, out against the biggest game of the season for both teams.
Go for it, Dan.
Interesting. We were just talking about offsides. One of the Red Bull's weaknesses is avoiding offside and keeping possession of the ball. Eric Rometti could have a scorcher of a game. I feel like we missed a presence like him when we played him last time. I feel like they got... Well, no, they didn't get lucky. They beat us fair and square. It's going to be a great game. I'm really glad Bradley White Phillips isn't there, which I kind of guess is a blessing and a curse, because I always want to play the best team, just so when you win, you can really...
I would agree with you if it was like 7 or 8 games back, but with only 4 games left on the season or whatever it is now, I want as many lucky breaks as we can get, especially in this one.
Yeah. I guess San Etienne will be his replacement. I'm worried, I always want to watch out for Daniel Royer. I feel like he has been popping up here and there and getting some cracking goals in their lineup. And of course, Kaku. Man, that guy. Hopefully we can shut him down. I feel like if we can shut him down, that is going to be the key for Atlanta United.
Lineup. Who are we thinking? Do you think Bello gets the call up as starting on left back still going into an away match?
Yeah, absolutely. He got his first ever call up. His MLS debut. He came in, played really well against a playoff team from the West, a team that has been playing relatively well over the past couple months. There's no reason to sit him. I get that McCann is going to probably be healthy.
That's
right?
what Elliot Beaven is making the suggestion that McCann would potentially get that. I have not seen enough negative out of. I feel more comfortable based on this recent performance and of recent weeks, even with McCann in the picture, of starting Bello and substituting McCann than the other way around.
No, I agree. So it wasn't a transcendent performance, but at the same time, it was a more impactful performance in his debut than, say, whenever Andrew Carleton came in, got the start against Montreal, and then was on the bench the next game.
Right.
I think, to me, it's a no-brainer to play him. Then again, I don't see these guys day in, day out in training. I don't know how endearing Chris McCann is into training to Tata in that regard, but I think you see Bello
right on time.
Yeah, right on time. Kevin Brown, Bello's boys. I don't think there's any reason you sit him. I say we probably end up with Parkhurst maybe replacing Jeff Lorenowitz, and then the same starting 11 that we had from Saturday.
Yeah, I think the only change that we might see is because we saw Remedy, Nagby, and Larry. I could see one of them being pulled to pull in Barco potentially.
Oh, really?
That's the only thing I can see. Yeah.
So, are you guys going a 3-5-2?
Yes.
No. Against Red Bulls? Well, with Bradley Wright Phillips being out, maybe, but against Red Bulls, I feel more comfortable with a 4-back, personally. Because you've got Escobar, you've got your back line for a 4-back is completely healthy between Escobar, Parkhurst, LGP, and then whether it's Bello or McCann, we can go all day about who we think it's going to be, but I think a 4-back gives you a little bit more security against a team that you know is going to be pressing. They're not going to sit back and wait for you. They're going to push the issue and try to put one in on you. They're not going to just capitalize on some weird mistake that you make.
Dan, I mean, what threats are we dealing with from an offensive standpoint from Red Bulls? I mean, you mentioned Derek Etienne most likely replaces Bradley Wright Phillips alongside Daniel Royer, who's kind of an oversized winger. I mean, you touched on it where we're going to have to cut off the passing lanes from Kaku to really, contain that offense. I don't know necessarily if you need. I don't know. To me, if there's a huge difference between a 4-back and a 3-back with 2 wing backs.
So I guess it depends on how much they do press, because their wing backs, you've got Kamal Lawrence on the left and Murillo on the right. So which are both very good players in their own right. So I'm real hesitant about putting Bello in a back 4 against Murillo potentially because of his experience. I thought that Bello did an excellent job on Savarino against RSL, but Murillo's he was in the World Cup this year. He could be a real difficult test for him. Plus, there's also Tyler Adams, and Tyler Adams likes to go back and forth laterally across the field to pull guys out of position. But the only thing is Tim Parker and Aaron Long at the back have been a little shaky lately, but I'm not banking on that to be a weakness at all. So, they've got a really strong team. Two names I'm not as familiar with because they just haven't been said out into the populace is Davis, who would partner Adams in the defensive central midfield, and Valot, who would play the right wing. But both are rated.
So you're thinking
high.
no Bello for the starting
position.
I don't
think Bello. I think we'll play a 4-2-3-1, and I think it's going to be something like McCann, LGP, Parkhurst, Escobar, where with I think it will be Barco, Almiron, Tito at the top three with Martinez at the top. The thing is, what are you going to do between?
I think you
Rometty,
put Nagby.
Nagby
I think you put Nagby and Jeff, and your subs would be Rometty and Gressel, maybe Kratz.
So you would, sorry, Kevin, you cut out. So Nagby and Jeff.
Yeah.
Man, Gressel and Rometty is huge depth on the bench.
Exactly. I think that completely changes your run of play.
I would swap Rometty for Jeff to start out with.
I agree, and so does Victor Mame in the trap, saying you'd swap out. Rometty should be starting over Jeff.
But I really want Gressel starting on the right.
I like Gressel starting more than Villalba just because I love the momentum and the excitement that Tito's substitution always brings to the lineup whenever he comes onto the field.
I hate it. I
hate the idea of it, but I do love the fact that if you had to look at what happens whenever Gressel comes on as a sub versus what happens when Tito comes on as a sub, which one gives you a bigger impact?
You're saying that because you think for some reason Barco is warranted starting?
Who else are you going to put over on left right now?
Tito.
And then Gressel on right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can.
I know I'm going to get hate for that. I don't give a fuck. But what has Barco done to warrant getting a start over what Tito and Gressel have been doing?
I've seen... The problem I have with Barco is that he's in this weird in-between state for me, where he clearly has ability, but it's like he's never making the right play at the right time, in my opinion, where he'll get the ball, create space, and then, I mean, he does distribute it occasionally, but more times than not, I feel like he's just on his back.
I said it in our Slack channel on Saturday. I challenge you to find me a player in MLS that is better at dribbling laterally and doing nothing than Barco. Name me one.
Chris McCann. Tyrone Mears.
They don't dribble laterally, though. They go up the wings. So you're talking about a guy who comes in from the left, clogs up the middle of the field where it's really crucial.
I'm talking about your doing nothing part.
Oh, yeah. Maybe.
I kind of want to see a Barco Bello link up.
The more I think about this, we could go back to the 3-5-2, the lineup that we played last week, but having McCann start over Bello.
I like that less than putting in Barco.
The kid obviously has talent, and I don't want to harp on it too much. He is not in a position to be starting over either of any of the options that we have in the attacking third of the field.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see him taking Gressel's. I agree. I'd want to start Gressel right now.
Julian Gressel, much to Akil Circa's assertion, may be a dark horse MLS MVP candidate.
Yeah.
Like, he has been so crucial, and we talk week in, week out. I keep hearing people say, well, we should probably sit Gressel. It's probably time to sit him down so we could play somebody else. But the guy just performs week after week after week. And then gives Kevin Brown a shout out in his interview with, I think it was Dirty South Soccer, when he was talking about Kevin shouting him out at the beginning of the away matches.
That was from The Athletic.
That was from The Athletic, my bad.
Yeah.
Well,
that was awesome. I don't know.
No matter how much we think we know what Tata is going to do, he's going to do what none of us ever expect, I feel like. So who knows what we'll see.
I really like that. Again, Gustavo just chimes in with nice little tidbits. I like that. He said the problem with Barco is that he is wearing the Independiente kit underneath the Five Stripes kit. He's not completely adapted.
Ooh, but Victor, Barco did score against the Red Bulls.
Yeah, one of his 3 goals.
So
4 goals.
Does that mean anything to you?
No. No, it doesn't mean anything. Okay, so the same logic, you guys aren't disagreeing with me, but the same logic that you guys are applying to Bello, not, maybe not being up for a big game or something like that. He's not going to be able to perform in this situation. Barco's 19. He hasn't really shown, aside from some games kind of in the middle of the first half of the season, that he's really up for the challenge or that he's really going to contribute to this team more so than the other guys are. I just don't. Maybe he can learn from the sidelines.
Maybe we should put him in the 2s.
Have a DP playing in USL. That would be very interesting. I don't know. Maybe next year is the year for him, but right now, crunch time, I'm sticking to my guns. That lineup that we deployed against Real Salt Lake was dangerous. I personally,
if we trotted out the exact same lineup, my biggest problem was against that Red Bulls offense. Again, I don't know what it's going to be without Bradley Wright Phillips, but against their attack, I would prefer to have 4 players on defense than just the 3 back.
Instead of potentially having 5 players on defense. It's to Kevin Brown's point, Miles Robinson was playing against New York Red Bulls during that game too. In the back.
Was he really? I didn't know that.
So I'm a huge fan of 3-5-2. I love the flexibility that adds. I love the unconventionality of it. I think that it kind of throws guys off guard sometimes, and it gives you the flexibility to play moving forward or to kind of pull your guys back or pull forward and then go to a 4-3-2-1, whatever.
I'm really interested in seeing a Barco Bello matchup. Like I've talked about it before about how I think that some of the inability of McCann rests on a lack of support that he somewhat needs on the left side. And Barco drifting more centrally. Bello didn't really need that as much, I felt like, whenever he played this past week.
You'll never beat the Garza Assad connection that they developed at.
No, you'll never
after a few games into last season. But
my only thing about playing Bello, Barco, and Tito is those are your 3 subs. Like all 3 will be subbed off in that game.
That's a good point. Good point.
So I think Barco, we could, if we played a 4-2-3-1 to Tim's point, I say Barco sits on the bench, we invert Tito, and then we put Gressel up on the right, as Tim was saying.
Oh, and I like Brittany's point too. We always have New England to try out the Bello Barco. We don't need to get crazy.
No, that's still crunch time. I don't care. We're winning that supporter shield, as Joe Johnstone says, 75 points or bust. We're breaking the points record. We're bringing the supporter shield home.
We don't need 75, though. We only need 70 for that.
75 means that we finish out the season on a winning streak. And I want that. I want that because we want to go into the playoffs. We're going to have a bye week. That's already confirmed. We clinched that last week.
I want us to lose against Toronto.
Oh, fuck off. Are you one of these? You have to lose to really learn how to win.
Yeah.
People.
We've already lost. We've already lost some games.
The people like whenever the Patriots were 18-0 is like, well, if they would have lost to the Dolphins in the middle of the season, they would have beat the Giants in the suit. They, that David Tyree catch would have never happened if they would have lost to the Dolphins in the middle of the season. Learn how to lose.
Yeah,
I hate that
75
argument.
or bust. I do like it. Any closing comments going into Red Bulls? I guess score predictions.
7-0 Atlanta.
God almighty.
No. I could see like a 2-2 happening up there, honestly. I want to see us get the win up there. It's going to be difficult.
Dude, to be honest, a draw is just as close to a win for us in that matchup because it maintains status quo.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all we can ask for. It's to either maintain or do better. So win is a 6-point swing for Atlanta towards supporter shield, and a draw is a what?
It's 2 points lost for Red Bull.
So yeah, it's a 3-point swing, I guess, because it would be 1 for us and 2 points lost for them. So that'd be a 3-point swing.
Would still be 4 points ahead of them.
Yeah, and our magic number's 9 right now. So that would be half of the total 9 that we need with a draw. So again, win, best case scenario. A draw, I'm very happy with a draw. I like the idea of a 2-2. I'm gonna say 1-0 Atlanta on the road.
I'm gonna go out on a stupid limb here and say justice is served and we beat them 3-1. They're gonna, because they need to win this game if they've got a hope left. So I could see them throwing everything at us and we just hit them on a counter a couple of times.
Okay. Yeah. Fuck it. Yeah, 2-1. I'll go with a 2-1 there. And Elliot Beaven with the famed England motto from the 2018 World Cup, it's coming home.
Great. And we saw how well that worked out. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Gareth Southgate.
It did a lot better than we thought it was.
It's very true. Do we have anybody else going up to the game this weekend outside of Kevin?
I'm sure Kevin will be.
Kevin, the only person I know that's yet to miss an Atlanta United game. Right? No, that's right. He's never missed a road game. Is that right?
I don't remember.
Or he hasn't missed a game.
I
think
he's only missed 1 or 2 though. Yeah.
That's right. Never mind.
Okay. So housekeeping, we'll have a fun announcement this 5 Stripe Friday. So keep your eyes peeled to that on Twitter. Home Before Dark. That's before spelled B and the number 4. Pick up tomorrow. I'll be playing down at West End Station Soccer. I know DeAndre will be out there. If any of you guys or gals are interested, you can check out the meetup group for that and RSVP. Been doing that. We are hoping that the fall league registration opens up soon. So we'll be sure to post that on Twitter if anybody's interested in that and try to get a couple of Home Before Dark squads to play in the fall leagues. Other things of note or to mention from you gents?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Brittany S. I think she's been on more podcasts than I have. And she's
Brittany S has attended more Home Before Dark podcasts than Kevin Brown's been to Atlanta United games.
That's a fact. Yeah, you need to step it up, Kevin Brown.
Oh, I will be out. Angie and I will be out at the Candler Park Art Festival. It's probably going to be raining. Hope not. Hope it clears up. Come see us. Come get some.
Yeah.
Get some cool gear. Come say hey.
Not sure where the watch parties are at this weekend, guys. I know that Terminus Legion and all the supporters groups typically have them. Mention checking out Unrelegated. They'll be up in Marietta. Still on the fence on where we'll be at. Maybe Hudson FC in Brookhaven. That's aside from Elder Tree. That's the closest to me. So it's becoming an easy one to get down to. So I'll either be there or Elder Tree. I haven't decided quite yet.
If you guys are more interested in more Home Before Dark shenanigans,
Brittany is MVH.
Yeah, most valuable homie.
Yeah,
we just released our first regular Home Before Dark show in a long time. Yeah. We had our best friend Kevin over here this weekend, and I
am your best friend, Kevin. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you're right.
So are you telling me you guys just ripped off Christian Mills's podcast?
Yeah, no, that's what happened.
No, we wanted him to know how it's done and to give him had to show him how the Padres do it, so he knows his place and stays underneath our thumb. So
are you is that a challenge? Like you're gonna do a funnier Mad Lib than he does? Is that what you're trying to say?
We kind of did.
Yeah,
it was in the middle of the show.
Test.
Yeah. We stopped in the middle of the show to do Myers-Briggs, and then
next week I go to Tim's ex's house and interview her for.
Oh my gosh! I would love to hear that.
I'm sure that could be arranged for both of us. Tim, maybe can we just do that? Can you go interview mine and I'll go interview yours?
No,
not
a fucking chance.
No, you need to do that now. Okay, homies, you need to get on them to do that because it'll be awesome.
No, we we did have our first regular show. It was like hour and a half show. Like this is. So if you guys are interested in that, you could just subscribe to the Home Before Dark network. You get all of the content. We're trying to arrange some other interviews or sit downs with another one.
Case, no. It hasn't said word one the entire time. No.
Yeah, not a chance. But we have some other stuff in the works. Hopefully going to get some people from For the Culture on here between Greg and Vera and a couple other folks. Yeah. And just other things. I'm going to be tied up. So we gotta belt out some content because I'm gonna be couch ridden.
Oh, we're gonna have a lot that whole weekend. I'm just gonna turn on the recorder. Whatever.
Kevin's just a little backstory, and I don't know if you know this, Dan. So, because I'm going under the knife on the 14th of November.
Breast enhancement.
Yeah.
Is this for gout?
It's actually breast reduction.
No, it's for grout. He's getting some tile work done, and they're just gonna have to put him under.
Yeah.
They're going to bleed out your gout.
I'm going to bleed out in my own bathtub, but it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. No, so I'm going to have surgery on the 14th. And then the following weekend, Kevin is going to come and babysit me for Friday and Saturday, something like that.
Yeah.
Going to play.
Which I'm pretty sure that is the weekend of the second leg of playoffs for the semifinals.
Oh, well, shit.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, I timed this very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
we're just going to turn on the mixer and play video games and record shit.
Are you going to be moved in at that point, Tim?
Yes.
I might actually go. Can I be in the operating room and just do a live stream?
That's what Brian's asking. If we could do an Away Days episode at Tim's surgery.
I think
Jay to do it like with all the ambient noise that he had.
I'll get a TiFo made.
And then you can interview Tim's ex in the operatory.
Oh, stop trying to make that a thing.
It's not
happening.
It's not going to happen. Okay. Dan, any announcements on your end? How many more kids you got on the way now?
2 twins.
You say that joking, but I don't know anymore.
Dan's going to have the first set of British-Irish twins. I'm sure that's not the case.
No,
there's plenty of them.
Anything to announce, Dan?
Yeah, funnily enough, I've been listening to this awesome podcast called Dr. Death. It's all about a surgeon who, basically butchered patients. It's awful. You think he?
I'm sure none of that is related to Tim's situation, or
it's just a pure coincidence.
I was just trying to kind of comfort people that I'm going to be just having a pretty easy foot surgery. Now Dan has me thinking that my doctor's going to be knifing me a little higher up than my foot during the surgery. So
no, I'm just kidding, Tim.
I'm going to come home with like no right arm or something like that.
No, you're going to be fine, Tim. Don't worry.
Great, Dan.
It'll be great.
Sorry. I did just finish a book, The Course of Love.
That's boring.
In a relationship, read it. It's awesome.
I start books all the time. Just I don't finish.
Sounds terrible.
That's what I've been doing, Tim.
Sounds terrible.
Most people meditate before bed. I've been reading before bed.
Yeah.
Puts me in a good state.
Okay. This has gone on long enough. Thank you guys for checking us out. You can find all of us on Twitter in the meantime. Tim, where can they find you?
Just like my shirt says, but with Herb at the end of it.
Jesus Christ. Dan, where can they find you?
You can find me at DNJMS.
And you can find me as well at The Architect. That's at _ARC, number 1 TECT. Collectively at Home Before Dark. That's before spelled B and the number 4. Check out gethomebeforedark.com/shop. Keep those dials tuned to the Twitter and Instagram for the announcement on 5 Stripe Friday this week. And yeah, we'll see you when we see you. Until then, as always, be home before dark.
Coca-Cola over Red Bull.
Oh, no.